we're just here living on Earth, like just being humans. And outside of that, there aren't needs for these labels, and yet they drive our society. And we're finally, I think, breaking through some of them more recently, but it's crazy how long that they have survived all of those judgments and perceptions of people being a little bit different.
Yeah. Well, and I mean, as a species, we go through cycles, right? Like we have had numerous renaissances, like there was ancient Greece, which was like before Socrates, which was, not the Greece that we envision when we're thinking about Socrates and Plato and all that. It was a totally different thing. They were very warlike. It was very tribal. And then later on, Greece had a renaissance, and all of a sudden they did have Socrates and philosophy and mathematics and all this other stuff, right? And then went into the Dark Ages after that. And then we had another renaissance after that, where we started going into sculpting and inventing and mathematics and philosophy and everything else again. And so I think that we're just coming back out of another dark period of our human history, World War I and World War II, and everything that's happened over the last 300 years, just because of, again, the mentality that dominated European culture, particularly in terms of colonization and expanding and world building, as it were. But now we're coming to this point where all the consequences are piling up. All of the consequences of how we view ourselves and how we divide ourselves and how we govern ourselves according to those things are piling up, and it's creating a need to wake up. It's kind of like, being asleep while your room fills with water, right? Eventually you're going to want to wake up and catch a breath and go, what the hell is happening? That's where we're at. I mean, I live in British Columbia. I don't know if you've been watching the news, but British Columbia had pretty much, it was just on fire all summer, and now it's underwater. There's been mass evacuations. They're literally half the province is basically underwater. Almost all the highways have been washed out. The railroad tracks have been taken out of commission. There's like we're shipping food and stuff around the province on boats. That's where we are right now. Right. And it's so very interesting, because we don't want to just deal with why that's happening. We just want to make it go away. Right. Like we just want to, it's like, no. Well, that's happening because the weather's changing. So, well, why is the weather changing? Well, let's talk about that. Let's talk about why all of a sudden in one of the nicest areas of the world, we're not getting the cool down effect that we did over the summer, or that we normally do over the summer. It's because we're cutting down all the trees, right? Or let's talk about why everything's flooding in the area that it is. Oh, it's because 100 years ago, we came in and drained a lake that was there and moved all of the indigenous people off that land so we could farm there. And now all of the place that we're farming is underwater again. And a chief from the native tribe that used to inhabit that area actually said, well, yeah, there was a lake there. It came back, right? Like, but we ignore what's happening in the world because we have a very fixated idea of what we want to happen and how it's going to happen. And so we get overly committed to control, right? And it's just about, no, we're going to put a road here. It's like, well, the mountain's moving. Doesn't matter. We'll just shave the mountain off, right? And so after enough time of doing that, now we have farmland that's not growing food very well because we just continue to till it over and over and over again, right? We have forests that aren't creating the same amount of oxygen or contributing to the same amount of rainfall. We have all of these consequences that are piling up because we haven't been willing to adapt, and we haven't been willing to look at it. We've been too absorbed in the status quo. And it's so bad now that the governments are again paying people to destroy food on their farms. They're paying people to destroy food, just like they did in the Depression. And it's to raise the price of the food, to keep the economy afloat. So this is how far removed we are from reality. I mean, in the Great Depression, they were literally burying crops while people starved so they could maintain the price in the economy. This is how absorbed we are with this game, to the point where we're not even thinking in terms of reality anymore. We're not thinking like, oh, there's food, there's people hungry, we should probably feed those people.